How can you develop a business that becomes an authority in the digital space in such a busy, noisy social media space? How can you elevate your social media presence utilizing cutting edge organic strategies to make money while you sleep? More importantly, how do you do it all while maintaining motherhood for two children under the age of 4, being a wife to an amazing husband, and definitely staying true to who you are as a human being? This is your Strategic Partner Podcast. Welcome to your Strategic Partner Podcast, where we give entrepreneurs the secrets, strategies, and processes to increase brand equity and max out revenue. Ladies and gentlemen, Ali Mehdaoui here, your Strategic Partner Podcast, and I am so excited and honored to have with me a rock star who absolutely made a huge name for herself in the business space. She's an authority. She's an incredible influencer. And when it comes to this digital game, oh my goodness, she's got her hands all over it. She is known as Super K. I got the privilege to know her more personally and closely over the last 2 months or so, and we get to collaborate and work together. Anyone that knows this incredible human being knows how she is as a caring, genuine, loving person in the most relatable way possible, where she focuses on impact, not the income that comes from it. Ladies and gentlemen, you are in for a treat, and allow me and help me make some virtual noise to the one and only Super K. What's up, Rockstar?
Hey.
Hey. It
Hey, hey,
officially happened.
hey.
We always talk about the hey. If you guys watch her videos, it always starts with hey. It's thing that caught my attention all the time. So first and foremost, I know I didn't do any justice to all the things that you've done for yourself, but if you don't mind, and if you could take a minute and share your story as it has unfolded, because I know you've been in business for just about 17 years or so, but you actually impacted the digital space in the last two. So could you go into a little bit of details for those who might not have the privilege to know who you are?
Absolutely. So, it's a crazy thing when everything goes to a point where you have to make a decision, which was 17 years ago. I was working with a company that was a startup, and I built them to a seven-figure business with them. And all of a sudden, that point, gentleman handshake, you're going to be part owner of the company. We're so grateful for you. Well, the second it came about a year in, and I said, we're getting big now. We need to sign contracts. I said, actually, you know what? You've given us your tips, tricks, and strategies, and we can find someone cheaper. So unfortunately, we're going to let you go. And I literally was broken because I put in 15, 18-hour days, driving 3 hours back and forth, waking up in the middle of the night at 2 a.m. to go film, a commercial of Santa Claus to get it out to the client by Christmas, doing crazy stuff with this company. And, felt like home when they just let me go. And I said, you know what? No one will ever dictate my worth ever again, because you can never depend on anyone other than yourself. So at that point, I just said, you know what? I need to make it myself, become my own boss. And I struggled. I had to reinvent myself, figure out what I wanted to do. I went to school for web designing, graphic designing, and said, you know what? Here we go. I'm going to be a web designer, start my own business. Struggling, eating ramen noodles, trying to find clients, literally doing them for pennies on the dollar. And got to a point where, I built a name for myself, and then I moved out of Massachusetts and moved to Florida. Well, a lot of my clients were local clients wanting to meet with me regularly. So I lost a big part of my business and said, you know what? Now I've got to reinvent myself again. So 6 years ago, I moved here to Florida and said, you know what do I want to do? My husband said, well, you have any skill. What excites you? And I said, I love doing video. I love connecting with people. I love people, and I want to help more people in different ways. So I started an Amazon business that took off, helped Amazon sellers rank their products, and that was great. And then, I felt underwhelmed, and I said, you know what? I need to do something else. And my husband said, what about marketing? You've got all the pieces that go with it. So why not try that? And I said, all right, let's figure this out. So I got into a program and had no clue what I was doing. My upline told me, oh, just go on, Facebook. That was the platform we were using. And just post your link in every group you can find. Message 100 people, send your link in the inbox. And you know what? It's in all average of numbers. Someone will click and join. Well, guess what? 3 months in, I'm doing exactly what she said, putting in those hours. And guess how much I made? Big fat goose egg, zero. And I'm like, there's got to be something to this. So I thought back to my previous business that was doing amazing. And I said, I did this on Facebook. Let me try my strategies on how I built my business from nothing to making great, income with strategies. So I tested and tweaked and I created results. The next month, after doing it my way, I ended up hitting leaderboards on companies that had no clue who I was and said, "Who is this Kristen Lee?" She came out of nowhere. And I was asked to speak on a Zoom for a company, and they said, "How'd you do it?" And I said, "Well, organically." And they said, "How?" And I said, "I thought just everybody knew how." And I said, "But maybe not because I was taught wrong." And they said, "Kristen, you've got to create a course and help more people." So that was my mission. And then I said, "You know what? It is labor intensive. It's either you trade time or money, one or the other, money for paid ads or time for manual." And then I thought, you know what? There's got to be a better way. 17 years typing gave me carpal tunnel tendonitis, arthritis. And I said, you know what? There's got to be a way to automate some of this stuff so I can focus on what is important, which is relationship building. And so I went out, found a programmer, and created my thoughts into reality. And now I'm able to help people have time freedom because as a mom, I'm busy with those kids, like you said, and I'm able to automate the daily income producing activities that are necessary to build my business and take the limited time I have and focus on relationship building. And that's where I am today, able to help more people because I put in systems and processes to help me along the way. And that's where I am today.
My goodness, you talk about setting me up with a whole interview. There's so much that I want to ask. First and foremost, how does one person go from ramen noodles to having a brand that is brighter than light itself? Like, talk to me about that transition, when you experienced your first real check. And then it became like, oh my God, I'm doing this weekly. And then it grew and it grew and it grew. Talk to me about that feeling. Because a lot of people, and I believe this wholeheartedly, they see the superhero and they dismiss the effort and the struggle that went behind. So I appreciate that you shared the ramen noodle part. So talk to us about that transformation. What actually needed to occur, or what did happen that you went from not making the money you wanted to make and not having the impact you wanted to create to becoming Super K?
So yeah, those ramen noodle days I will never forget. And literally it was eating ramen noodles. Like I'm not saying it to, say anything. I had to pay for, my living and working on just maybe making $200 to $300 a month starting off. Trying to build websites. I was literally doing it for pennies on the dollar, like I said. So ramen noodles was all I could eat, barely being able to get by. And it was the mindset and determination that got me through because when you have a vision and a goal that you write out, and when I say write out, I literally mean write out. Don't type it, don't think it. You need to write it in paper and pen. Because honestly, your subconscious mind pays attention to the movements, the actions all together. You can start manifesting. And when you believe, you achieve, as we know that saying. And it's so true because I believed and saw myself as a bigger problem solver than the problems I was facing at the moment. And I knew I could have an impact if I didn't give up. And guys, I'm telling you, I wanted to call it quits so many times. And I'm not going to lie, yes, mindset can be strong, but I almost did because I let other people tell me, Kristen, why don't you just go get a job and start making some money? Aren't you sick of these ramen noodles? Your sodium intake must be through the roof. And I said, no, I will not let someone dictate my work. And they said, well, they dictate more than you're paying yourself. And I said, today, but not in the vision of Kristen Lee that I see of tomorrow. And having that in my mind and telling myself that every day, Kristen, you are great, you're wonderful, and you can do it. You're going to impact the people you want, and nothing's going to stop you. Giving myself positive affirmations every day, I think, is the only thing that kept me going. Because when someone says something bad about you, it takes 5 positive things for someone to say to get rid of that negative thought.
That's crazy.
And it's, you have to be the one to tell yourself every day, people can't stop you. You are the only one that can stop you. And if you stop, you would never know what the outcome could be. So guys, if you're struggling and feeling like, man, I've done this 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, and I still am not making a penny. Because guys, when I made that first check of, I believe it was $110, I was so excited because that was in 1 week rather than my 300 a month. And I was like, I'm going out for sushi and I'm spoiling myself. Let me tell you, I pretty much spent that whole check on that meal, but it was like the gift to me for all that hard work. And then when I made that first check, doesn't matter how much, it could be $9.99 you make, but it's remembering that moment of what you feel of, I got past the hurdle and I'm going to my breakthrough. And just every day envisioning it get bigger and bigger and bigger until you reach the ultimate goal, which the ultimate goal isn't money. Okay. Money is just aftermath. It's that amount is the amount of impact you've created, and just keep your eye on that prize. And that's how you're going to get through those ramen noodle days or years like I did.
So if you're going through ramen noodle, know that there are brighter days ahead of you.
Yes. Yes.
So let's talk about that gentleman handshake. It's interesting. Every single entrepreneur that I know that is successful has gone through their dark days, right? They've gone through the hurdle, the pain. I mean, for myself, I had 3 companies back to back to back in a matter of 6 years. Actually 7 years. My first 7 years in business out of the last 14. That the first one, I had 68% of the company in my organization and built it to $400 million of annual revenue. They sold without telling me or anybody. And then one day we wake up, there's a post on Facebook. Thank you. We shut down. That literally, that was the post. And it wasn't like a pretty colored picture attention. Like, it wasn't ugly. I'm just going to post it and get in the plane real quick, The second one had legal issues where what they were reporting to the IRS did not match what was in their book of business. And there were enticement and a few things that, the FTC came after them for. So that was hit number 2. And I did my part. I did what I was supposed to. I built it in 6 countries. The company failed me, right? And then the third one was really one that hurt, a $1.6 billion operation that we've built. And they started taking out of my website and coaching and other businesses outside the operations that we had and reselling it in other departments without my permission. And, publicly traded company, 1.6 billion. I was like, there's no way for me to flex my muscles. It's probably best that I just walk away and call it a write-off. And I did exactly just that. No, the reason I'm giving you all this background and my question to you is, I remember it created a little bit of trauma for me that anytime, especially after the bigger one, someone comes to me with hey, I want to do business with you. We're going to collaborate and let's shake hands on it. And I'm like, yeah, nah, bro. Been there, done that. You know what I mean? Like, no, thank you. It created this defensive mechanism. And ultimately, I healed it instead of a defensive mechanism with an educated business decision process. So share with us, how did you overcome that painful experience to be the open-minded, positive, innovative person that you are today?
So yeah, really, it just recently healed, to be honest, because I was jaded from that. And so for the last 17 years, it was only the last 2 that I started collaborating with others, because I was in that point of, I can't trust anyone to do it, so I have to do it all myself.
I get it.
And it sucks. Like, I literally am the designer, I'm the web developer, I'm the video production, I am the content creator, I am the email marketer, I am everything. And I learned a lot from it because it allowed me to be, versed in everything. However, the hours I spent, that if I healed a little faster, it could have been saved and enjoyed the life more rather than being in front of my computer 3 days straight, just digging in to learn everything. Because, we can be the jack of all trades, but master of none if we have to do it all on our own. So it recently happened that I finally have healed, and now I'm beginning to collaborate more and trusting more. And I notice, obviously, with hands of many create bigger results, where I'm seeing substantial growth in my business rather than being that solopreneur. Doing it with others and collaborating and building that network of trust, it's where that breakthrough is happening. To take it even further, if I was able to do what I have been able to do to date by myself, imagine where I'm going to be able to get in the next 10 years with the help and assistance of others together as a team.
Spot on. And ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a quick break. I'm running out of cashews here. And when we come back, Super Kit and I are going to talk about how she went from making donuts, meaning no money, to actually making some real dough. We'll be right back. Are you a hopeful or struggling entrepreneur? We'd like to introduce you to Yep, an entrepreneurial community that has expanded over 6 continents and helped over 5,000 individuals. The Young Entrepreneur Project would allow you to start, scale, or grow your business at the level you desire by providing you with a library of unlimited trainers and modules, a marketplace where you can lower all of your expenses, increase your capital, and even the opportunity to become a contributor, a speaker, and a trainer, or even get paid to mentor others within the platform. Learn more today at winwithali.com. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Ali Mehdaoui here within a new episode of your Strategic Partner podcast. And I got the rock star herself, Super K. We've covered a whole lot already, and I'm pretty sure a whole lot have gotten a bunch of nuggets, but I definitely want to go back to making no money. So I know in the journey of entrepreneurship, there are the dark ages where you make no money, and I call it even survival mode. Sometimes you would go literally for like a year and a half, sometimes in some cases people a lot more than that, where they don't make any profit. How did you go, uh first of all, through that survival mode without losing your mind and quitting? And what actually took place? Like, what are some of the activities that you felt like have created not only a little bit more revenue, but the growth in a consecutive way?
Yeah, so going from nothing to something in my bank account definitely was a good motivator to keep going. But I have to say, it went on a good, geez, I can't even say, probably it moved up, but it probably was a good 6 months working with literally, that $300 a month, and then starting to get to maybe 1,000 a month and moving it on up, where I didn't really have a huge breakthrough until about 5 years ago, where I was able to go from, trying to pass a $30,000 mark, income. So it felt like I was working a job, to hitting the six figures and beyond and going, wow, okay, this was possible. And the game changer for me was learning and always being a student first. I started purchasing courses, paying for coaches and mentoring of those that I wanted to accelerate to faster. So why not ask those who have done what you want to do already? So you're not reinventing the wheel and guessing along the way, watching YouTube videos for free and wondering, wait, is that true or false information? And did it produce results? So it wasn't until I finally said, you know what? All right, I got to a certain point, so I'm getting the fundamentals and understanding. But to take my business from the next level of feeling like I'm just at the same point, hitting the same numbers, it was spending money on courses and coaches, where at first I'm like, oh, it was weird spending $47 on a course, because I'm like, when I'm I'm like, oh, that's a bill right there. And I'm like, but I'm not going to be able to pay those bills if I don't put out $47. And that sounds a lot to some people. And then it was 97, then paying 197. And then it got to the point where I was getting used to paying 1997, and then 2,500, and then 5,000. And it gets to the point, as you make more money and you grow, you realize that the money that you spend on your business is not an expense. It is something that is going to help you build. And of course, there are tax write-offs too, which is a bonus as a business owner. But if you don't spend the money, you need to think, what are the cons of not doing this? Don't just say, oh, I see a mastermind 10,000. Do your research. Make sure you spend 10,000 on a good mastermind, not one that is literally going to leave you empty-handed and no nuggets to take and implement. But understanding that investment in yourself is the best investment you could ever make, because you know what? It's you're spending the money on. So I hope that answered that question in a roundup way.
No, it definitely did. The other side that you and I, all of us as entrepreneurs, we tend to suffer in, other than not making money and during our survival mode, health issues. Sleep deprived entrepreneurs is a thing that is absolutely real. Um, Posture, because we're constantly sitting and crouched in front of our computers. Overweight, because we're not walking and running, and we just don't take care of our health. You've had your own sets of health issues, as you've mentioned earlier, whether it was arthritis or what have you, from writing all the time. Walk us through that. Like, when did you identify, like, oh, I'm creating a real problem in here, long-term health? And how did you pull back to rearrange it? And I ask because I believe it's an important piece. And for someone like yourself with a large voice, we tend to have a little bit more responsibility to educating people on this piece as well. Instead of saying go 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 go, you can make money, we want them to also making sure that they're aware of, keeping the main thing. Take care of your health too.
Absolutely. And during my journey, I got extremely unhealthy up and down. So when I first started my business, it was like, okay, all eyes on deck. I put a 5-year plan, no dating, no fun, just build my business and go. I would stay up 3 days straight sometimes building a client's website to try and get on to the next one to be able to make money. I wouldn't sleep. I was drinking energy drinks like they were going out of style. Those monsters, I was buying them at, Sam's in the packs and literally just had them in a fridge next to my desk so I didn't have to move. I didn't drink water.
Wow.
I didn't drink water at all. I was like, wow, I haven't had a glass of water in like 3 days. It's all sugar and energy drinks, to the point where I stood up one day from my desk after, and I didn't get up a lot. I would sit there for 8 hours. I would just get up to go to the bathroom. I wouldn't eat. And at this point, I was so broke, I had to move back in my mom's house, and she was bringing me meals, and she was scared to knock on the door because once I'm in zone programming, you don't knock, because if I get messed up, I turn into the devil.
I get it.
And so she would leave the food at the door and slide a note. So if I saw a piece of paper when I turned, I knew my meal was at the door just to get me to eat. I wouldn't eat. And so I got to a point, I stood up from my desk, all of a sudden everything went black. And I started, like, my head was like, I could feel my brain expanding, and I got so dizzy. I thought I was going to pass out, and the black stayed in my eyes. Like, I couldn't see anything for good. It felt like a minute or so, but it was probably 30 seconds, and everything spun. And I was like, that wasn't good. And gosh only knows what my body was telling me. I need to take care of myself. I had lost a ton of weight because I wasn't eating. I was just taking sugar in. And I got to a point where I was unhealthy and knew I needed to change the game. So then I said, you know what? I'm going to start getting up every 30 minutes and move, because I have back pain, my wrists and everything else, like I said. And then I got into a groove. And then again, we can lapse again. When we're in that driven mode, we can get sucked back in. And I wasn't sleeping either. So then I was taking Ambien on top of it. So I'm energizing myself with these energy drinks during the day. And then I'm like, I've got 4 hours to sleep. Let me pop an Ambien and knock myself out, and then get back up and crack that monster again and get going.
You literally did everything bad.
Everything. And when I changed it, I decided, I got to a point where I said, you know what, I'm going to challenge myself and eat healthier. Well, it turned into now binge eating, just eating snacks in front of me, whatever I can, chips. All right, fine. I'm eating, and I was telling myself I'm eating. I have my gallon of water. I got heavy. And I was doing video production for my best friend, and we were on a jet going to Vegas, and I'm filming for his business. And someone commented on the YouTube video saying, "Who's that fat chick in the mirror?" Which was me in the camera. And I had never been called fat because I was,
wow. You tell that guy, I'm gonna find that person. I'm gonna come after you. Come after my people like that. I'm kidding.
I think that comment's still on that YouTube video
out
there in space. I gotta go find it again, because I realized I never shared this story. So at that point, I was like, no one's gonna call me fat. I thought I was doing good for my body. I wasn't, because I was putting more crap food in me. I decided I'm gonna change the game, and I'm gonna do a fitness competition. I'm gonna push myself to the level of having to eat right, exercise right, get my mind, body, and soul right. And it trained me to eat healthy every 3 hours. I turned my body into a clock, because every 3 hours I knew what time it was, because my stomach growled on the dot. Yep. I was drinking a gallon of water a day. I had the most energy and the most on point mind, that I was so productive. I could get more done, and I was healthy, fit, and felt great. And that took my business to another level. Had kids, got fat again. I got up to 220 pounds in 2019, not far off. 220 pounds 2 years ago I was. And I said, you know what? This isn't healthy either. Got the terrible back pain, and then said, you know what? Let's get back into action. And lost 83 pounds in a year by doing it the right way. Eating right, water. Guys, I'm telling you, whether you're overweight, underweight, or just normal, make sure you've got the water intake and the proper food, because if your mind isn't right, your business is not going to propel the way it needs to for success. It all starts with you internally before you can be your best externally.
Man, usually that would be the mic drop, but I gotta get a whole lot out of you because my people will be mad if I don't get more out of you. That was awesome. Let's talk about automation. You know, you've mentioned automation, and I believe in the concept of automation allows you to have a life. You know, when you have autoresponders, and I got two rules in business, right? So people ask me all the time, how are you able to do so much? Well, I clone myself. I
Mhm.
have what I call delegation, and I have what I call outsourcing. And those are the two things that I love to do because it allows me to sit with you and have this podcast that we're having right now, or do the things that I enjoy to do, or just spend some quality family time. So, talk to us about automation because it's a cool thing to say, like saying gluten free, but most people have no idea where to begin. So, what's your take on that for a beginner when it comes to automation?
So yeah, automation is something that was a game changer accelerator for me to become 10 times more productive when I had systems in place. And what automation is taking tasks that you have to do every day and fast track it with a program or application that will do those steps for you so you can focus on what is most important to truly building your business, which most of the time is relationship building. People buy from people they know, like, and trust, and if you don't build that relationship through content connection, you're not going to get far. So with automation, that was a huge thing for me, especially to be able to save my body and be healthy. I need to find a way to not have to be on my computer typing all day long just because if I need surgery in both wrists now, and if I don't relax, and he said it's going to be inevitable that it has to happen. So I actually created these extensions for Facebook because that's where I market most, and I love connecting with people. So now I can automate income producing activities like adding people daily, removing inactive people, mass messaging with a personalization message so that way it's personalized to them with a few clicks of a button. And I did this with Chrome extensions. So on your computer, people use Chrome browser and they just upload them on there, and you click set them, and now you're moving into action. And in 20 minutes, I can get all of my income producing activities done of adding people, commenting, responding to comments, deleting inactive people, following up with people, messaging people, and finding new friends with in 20 minutes or less. And I actually created a free training for people. And if you want to check it out, you can go to www.freefbformula.com and you'll be able to see how I 10x my productivity using automation and getting it all done in 20 minutes a day. So I have more time with my family and more time to build
And
relationships.
for all my people who are saying what she said, don't have to rewind it. I got you. I'll put it in the description. I'll put every single link about Super K, social media assets, and every single thing that I can find online because I already made a list for you. So just check out the copy in the description. You got all the gifts and the freebies available to you. That was spot on. Let's talk about mindset and determination. You've mentioned those specific two words. When it comes to having to overcome that infamous handshake, having to survive ramen noodle ages, and having to also manage the negativity that comes from an online busy space and comparitis and so on and so forth. In your words, what does mindset and determination represent to you?
Mindset and determination represent to me the true freedom that you can set on your own. So this is something that only you as a person and I can do for myself. And it's the biggest gift we can give to ourselves is mindset and determination. Because when we work on our mindset for ourselves, it not only helps our business, it helps our relationships, it can help our finances, it can help every aspect of our life when we work on our mindset. And it's something I realize a lot of people miss, and I was missing it for a long time. I thought, oh, hocus pocus, affirmations, manifestation, positive reinforcement. Okay. Until I started doing it because someone said, say these every day for 90 days and let me know how you feel. And I said, this is a joke. It's a waste of time. And they said, well, it's a waste of time. Tell me how much it is in 90 days. I just want to hear. Well, in 90 days, I was able to manifest things that blew me away. I did a thing called the 55 times 5 rule. Have you ever heard of that? Where you write out
Mm-mm.
in present tense, I am so grateful now that, whatever your
Yeah, so
ultimate
that
goal.
I do every single. That's actually how I start my
Yeah,
my secret book. Yeah. Okay, got it.
gratitude journal. But we do this and we choose one thing that we're grateful for in the present, and we write it 55 times in one sitting for 5 days straight. Now, when you do this for 5 days straight, and then you can go on to another thing that you're wanting to manifest. Well, I thought this was hocus pocus. I was told to do it. I'm like, yeah, my carpal tunnel and tendonitis is killing me. Why am I doing this? I said, I'm going to do what I told her and promised her. I'm a woman of my word. I'll do it. Well, it was funny. I was on, a call with a friend of mine, and I was telling her about this because she was feeling really down. And I pulled out my notebook to show her, and I said, so here we go. And I looked, and it was on the same date, August 6th of the previous year, that I had done this exercise. And it was August 6th that I was talking to her, and I totally forgot what date it was that I did it. And I was like, okay, so, I did this, and oh my gosh. And I looked at what I wanted to manifest, and I had just previously hit that goal the previous month and forgot what I actually wrote because it was a year later. And I said, wow, all right. I went back to my friend. I said, you're right. People want instant gratification. So when they write out these goals, they're going, why hasn't it happened today? What? Come on, all right, this doesn't work. You told me 90 days they would work. Well, little things manifested in 90 days, but that 55 times 5 rule, when I did it and thought about it, and then I ended up forgetting about for a time, it came to manifestation because I logged it in my subconscious mind where I was doing other positive affirmations, but it brought it to reality because without me knowing, I was actually doing the things necessary to get me there. It's not like you write it down, hope. You need to put action and determination behind it. But it's amazing on what happens when you use the power of your mind and you stay determined to your outcome, not the outcome people tell you is going to happen. People will tell you, oh, that's impossible. That's not going to happen. You can't do that. Well, you know what? I love to twist that around and say, let me show you how. Tune in later and leave it at that and keep going. So don't give up on your dream. Write it out and try it 55 times 5. It may happen in 5 years. It may not happen in a year, but I was blown away. And it was kind of like, I felt like it was from above saying, I told you I would show you, and I would do it in an amazing way because it was on the day that you wrote it. A year later, I'm showing you now. So do you believe me? The power of putting positivity out in the world is so true, and I'm 100% believer.
I love it. I love it. I got one more question for you, and this is by popular demand from my imaginary friends who I think they're asking this as they're listening to it in the future. So you've mentioned earlier about spending money on your business, investing in your business, right? Courses and things of that nature. Let's just say I have like no more than $150, $200 extra in my pocket every single month after I pay my bills and whatnot. What would you say? Here's what you need to do right away in order to create some productivity on your business with that $150. What would your answer be if there's anything you can think of?
So if I only had $150, I would try to get the most bang for my buck, and I would see how I could find a way to not only get some education, but I hate to say this, but also find a way to automate it. So I'm doing both. And it's funny that you said this because I never thought about that. I'm like, I guess stuff is at a pretty good price point because if they got, the middle package of an automation tool and got an upgrade of, a course training, they literally, this is what a lot of people have done is they've gotten both. And I'm not trying to sell my stuff, but when you find the right things, you get the training and automate, you kind of get the best of both worlds where you can learn and still have that time to implement right away with that automation as you're learning. So I would say, if you can find some training or something that can be a process to help you fast track while you're learning. Because a lot of people spend so much time, they spend the money and they get in the learning phase, they can't focus and start implementing. So having something that you can actually take action or in a community sense, finding something that has other people that are like-minded can train you as you're learning and have a community behind you. Because guys, doing it alone is not a way to do anything. And as I said, I did it alone for all these years until now. Now I have the time to do it with people and to get all of that. I actually, you know what? Can I plug it?
Oh yeah, no. I want you to give it all out. Go for
like
it.
honestly, I pushed away for about a month because I'm so busy. I'm like, no. And I'm going to tell you guys honestly, my girlfriends who met me in marketing, like, Kristen, you need to do this. It'll help you build your brand and, get the word out of how you help people. I'm like, no, no, no. I've got so many projects going. I can't focus. And they said, listen, I'm telling you, this is what you got to do. Like, it is important to get in because the community can help you. And I think the lowest package is 147, which would be 150. And literally you can earn, learn, and have a community in one, and learn the systems and automation as you go with this opportunity. And I have to say, and I'm not doing it to plug that either, but it's the point of community. When I felt people were backing me and there to pour into me as much as I pour into everybody else, that's when I felt fulfilled. Because I was starting to get drained, always being the one pouring into everybody, being that leader to motivate my tribe and teams, that I was starting to, get to the bottom of empty. And it wasn't until I got into Yep where people were pouring into me, I was like, I'm full again. And now I can be an even better version of Super K and a better version of mom and a better version of wife, because I have people behind me that see my vision, see how I can help, and they help me help more people. So, plugging into a community as well, don't do it alone. And if I only had 147, I would either learn as one, but it's better to learn with many.
Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. Awesome. We're going to take one more break. And when we come back, we're going to get up close and personal with Super K. Yes, you guessed it. We're going to talk about the hair. We'll be right back. Hi, my name is Ali Mehdaoui, and I have spoken at over 500 conferences in 3 languages, including TEDx and many Fortune 100 companies, sold books in 7 countries, and I focus on helping struggling entrepreneurs to leverage social media and the digital space to create brand equity and revenue. Visit me today at winwithali.com and let me show you how we can grow your financial bottom line and help you expand with momentum. Welcome back, rock stars. Ali Mehdaoui here with your Strategic Partner Podcast, and I got the one and only Super K in here. And Super K, I mean, I have to. So check this out. I went and did some homework. Yes, we do homework before we go on our episodes. And I looked and I counted 7 different hair colors before you chose the hairstyle that you have right now. So walk us through that moment that you said, I'm going to start creating Super K outside Kristen Lee, and how were those different phases of identified, the blue wasn't a good idea, and then it translated to what we see every single day?
Absolutely. So it's funny, I did not create my own brand. It was created for me within my tribe and by accident. So, I started off, Kristen Lee, the blonde hair, that's what everybody knew me as when I first got online. And as time went on, I started building teams and tribes and everything. They're like, oh my gosh, how do you do all this, Kristen? You've got kids, you've got a husband, you've got, multiple businesses. You still pour into us so much and give us all this training and value. You're like Superwoman. And one person in my tribe underneath said, no, she's not Superwoman. She is Super K. And so they started calling me Super K. It was just, the AKA Super K came about that way. And because they started calling me that. And then one day I was about to go live and my mom came over and she had a bag for me. And I was like, oh my gosh, Mom, thank goodness you're here. Do you have any special home remedies? You're really good at this stuff. I have this huge zit on my face and I have to go film live. It's so big, it's distracting. And she goes, oh my gosh, yeah, it is. She loved to joke with me and mess with me. So she goes, well, actually, I brought over a bag that I found in my closet from your bachelorette party 5 years ago of wigs, costume wigs. We had fun. We rented a yacht and all wore wigs and just got crazy and had fun. And she goes, here's your wigs. And she goes, I've got an idea. And she pulled one of the colored wigs out and threw it on my head. It was a purple one. She goes, ta-da, that will distract people. They'll be so focused on your crazy purple hair that they won't even notice that zit on your face. And I started laughing. I'm like, Mom, no, for real. And she goes, no, for real, it could work. So I went live with the purple hair on my Facebook page. And it was the first time that I saw so much engagement and people commenting and watched the most views on that video. I was like, joking because I was embarrassed about the zit and then felt weird that I even had purple hair, but made fun of it and had fun that it actually stuck and people loved it. So the next day I said, okay, well, I was thinking, I've got 7 other colored wigs here, let's just switch them up. And these were $5 wigs you bought on Wish. Nothing great. They were literally cheesy costume wigs. So
that's something I would wear, huh?
I just changed them up every day. I'm like, oh, you know what? People were looking forward to what color is, Kristen going to come in today. And it catches the eyes as people scroll through their newsfeed like, wait, crazy color wig. It gets people to watch and then they see the value. And that's how I started building a following. So how this look came about is I was thinking, a little bit ahead. I was supposed to be at a speak at a conference which got canceled because of COVID. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, I can't wear these costume $5 wigs to a conference. Like it looks fine, maybe on camera, but in the back, it's all just like net and a mess and everything. I'm like, I've got to step up this game. And you know what? Maybe pick something that I stick with because I don't want to buy a million, human hair, colored hair. And I was like, all right, you know what? So I decided to go out and create my look. And I said, you know what? I'm going to make this a look that I stick with. So let's go. And I announced to my tribe, I said, guys, Kristen Lee is getting a makeover tomorrow. I can't wait. I'm going to get my hair done. Wait till you see what happens. I'm coming back and you're going to meet the new and improved Super K. So the next day I show up and the colors I chose were for a reason because they have meaning. So in branding, colors have emotions, okay? And you can Google, color chart for branding and you'll see all the color brands and each one means something different. The pink is feminine and fun. The purple is, wealth and excitement. And the blue is, determination and serving. So they all have different meanings on what I am as a person internally and what I represent to help and serve and I'm fun, outgoing, and I want to create wealth in other people's lives, not just monetarily, but feeling wise and just feeling complete. And so, I showed up with my new look and everybody's like, wow. And I felt like it was me. The wigs were just fun. This brought out the best version of myself to feel me. And then, of course, I tried different color outfits and this and that to see what worked. And blue is one that is just, it's a strong color for me and it makes me feel me. And it's nothing else other than, what I feel my best in blue. I just feel powerful. I feel confident. I feel like I can change the world. And so that's the color I stuck with. And that's how Super K came about with my brand. It happened by accident. My tribe named me Super K. And then one day, my mess turned into a message and
Yep.
a brand. So
I
that's
love it.
about.
I totally relate to that. That's incredible, and it's just so inspiring to hear the phases and how it was just a fun thing that it turned into a well-established brand. Let's talk about. I know you and I many times talked about, hey, I'm gonna turn it off. I got to spend some time with my husband, right? That's what you would say. Spousal support, was it always there? Did you have to develop it and adjust as you go? Because I know for myself, I have a system with my wife. It starts with a note to my wife, letting the world know and she that you are number one. And throughout the whole day, I'll take little breaks where whether it's a coffee break or whatever, and we just sit and chat. 9:30, I shut it down, and then I have certain amounts of time throughout the week that I purposely shut down business just to dedicate to my wife. So we created it over a period of time, and it took us a long, long time. Plus, I gotta get her buy-in every single day, and what I'm doing is for us. So talk to me from a wife's perspective and a woman's perspective on that process for you to get spousal support.
Absolutely. So it's so important because if you don't have support, it only pulls you down daily. And guys, not everybody's going to give you support in the beginning because they're going to go another thing. Well, I tried to let you said that last one was going to work, but another thing, and that's with me and my husband many times, another thing. And when we met, he was, working on the oil rigs in Africa. So our relationship was long distance for 3 years. So when he'd be out to sea, I would literally be in front of my computer nonstop, work, work, work. And then we would travel for 2 weeks at a time. And, so we would have constant time. When we, got married, it was okay. He understood. It was the repetition of that was my life. I'm so driven. He understood that. But once we had kids, things had to change because it wasn't just me and him. We have a family to take care of. And guys, this is still a work in progress because up until maybe 2 months ago, actually was trying to get something in place that worked for my family because I literally would be upstairs working so much that I would start as soon as my kids went to school and be up here till 10 at night, and I would barely see them. Some nights I wouldn't see them because I'd be in my offices trying to get things done, getting these, businesses taken care of and launched. And I realized it wasn't healthy. And my husband and I had conversations over, the past year and a half, it would be like a 6 month, hey, Kristen, do you think we can have a little bit more time together? I haven't seen you in days. The kids like, can we just take the weekend off? So I dedicated weekends family. I shut it off. I do not answer a single message on weekends. I let my tribe know, if you need me, there's a community of people that will help you. However, I'll be gone until Monday. And so that was fine and great. But then I was not really there mentally at the dinner table. I was still thinking about work. I was like, had my phone, like trying to pretend I wasn't working.
I can relate.
It was my kids saying, Mom, no phone time. Play with me, no phone time. And I had an addiction of wanting to be on point and answering people right away because I want them to know I'm there for them. However, that took away from my family to the point where at dinner a few months ago, my husband said, Kristen, I'm your best friend. I'm your biggest supporter. But if this continues, maybe it's best if you just are a businesswoman. Do you want to be a mom? Do you want to be a wife? Because we can't continue. And we've tried over and over again. And that was a waking point where I said, wow, I heard it over and over again. I was missing the mark of how serious it was because he was Mr. Mom, Mr. Dad, a business owner, very successful business owner himself, but he handled the kids bathing, getting ready for school, dropping them off, picking them up, feeding them, bathing them, repeat, and running his successful business. And I was just running my business and giving them the dribbles.
Yeah.
And so I woke up and I said, babe, all right, I'm going to figure this out because it has to change. And since then, I communicate with him more. I say, hey, babe, I do have this call. Do you mind? And if so, yes. And he'll say yes or no. And I said, you can tell me no, because my husband's never said no to me. He wants me to succeed. He loves that I have a passion of helping people, even though he doesn't understand what I do yet, because it's a totally different world to him. But he knows that I help people, and that makes me feel good, and it makes him feel good. So, guys, when you have a spouse, talk to them, communicate, because if you don't, I almost lost my best friend, my family, torn apart because I was too business driven rather than I'm doing it for my family, but I was doing it so hard that I forgot to give them the attention they needed because I thought my husband's got it all together. He's taking care of them. They're in great hands. Everything's fine. But he was missing that. So make sure you have time. Like Holly said, 9:30 shuts off and that's their time. And make sure you do that. And if you can't, ask permission to make sure if it's okay or not. So they're not like, you said you would, and then you didn't, because that's what I did over and over again. Yep. And it could lead to me losing the best thing I've ever had in my life. My biggest supporter, the love of my life, the kids, my best friend, everything, because I was so driven to help people that I wasn't helping them. And they come first. Family first, business second. And when you have them in balance and they agree with each other, unbelievable things can happen.
I love it. Last but not least, your kids are under 4. One day they will be 18 and 21, and they're going to hear this podcast. What is your message to them?
It's emotional thinking that, one day I want to set examples for them. And, letting them know, no matter what it is and who tells you what you should be or what you can do, follow your heart. And don't let anything stop you, because if your heart's telling you to do something and that's what you want to do, and someone else is telling you, no, that's not going to make you money, that's not going to make you where you want to be, no one can dictate where it can take you, only you. So do what you love with all your heart. Give it 100%. And when you do, anything is possible. So just follow your dream and don't stop until you reach the goal and beyond.
There you go. This has been an exclusive Your Strategic Partner podcast with Super K. And let me tell you about what I have learned on my takeaway notes before we wrap it up. So first and foremost, it's okay to start from ramen noodle, because you can definitely build a global business if you have a cell phone and access to Wi-Fi. It's okay to trust individuals and give that gentleman or gentlewoman handshake, but make sure that you verify and document so it doesn't fire back at you financially, emotionally, and definitely business-wise overall. It's okay to start not making money, but I hope you've picked up some of the golden nuggets that you've received as far as where you need to make some adjustments, automation, having the mindset, having the determination, investing in your business as little as it may be, or as you're growing your budgets to invest a little bit more, and definitely maintaining high awareness of health issues. As entrepreneurs, those are some areas that we tend to ignore. It's okay to have multiple businesses, it's okay to have multiple passions, but keep the main thing the main thing. Making sure that that person that is in your life that is supporting you right now is the reason why you are doing what you're doing, always including them and always doing it all for them. These were my takeaway notes on today's episode of your Strategic Partner Podcast. Super K, I'm so grateful and honored that I've had you in here, and I cannot wait to do it again more and more and more. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure you visit me winwithali.com. Also, check me out on any social media platform where you may exist at your strategic partner or at official Ali Mehdaoui, or anywhere you can Google Ali Mehdaoui. I promise you I will be there. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you, we love you, and we'll see you next time. Peace out, everybody.